Gender identity. This is a hot topic in today's culture. What is a woman? Inclusive language, including everybody into the fold. And in today's video, our conversation is no different. As I was scrolling TikTok, I came across this video and I was quite appalled at the responses given. Does using inclusive language turn out to be beneficial and truthful in any direction, especially on the topic of gender identity and equality? All right, so listen, we're gonna dive into this video really quickly. I'm gonna pop it up here on the screen. But I was scrolling TikTok last night, and I kid you not, this conversation I was not expecting to see on my timeline, but one that I'm grateful for because I'm seeing it's a prevalent conversation that's had often in today's culture all over the place. A page on TikTok titled Dr. Controversial. Let's take a look at it and kind of pull some things from it and see where we land.
Okay, well, Michael, do you know what the leading cause of death for pregnant people is?
Pregnant people?
Look at his face. He's like, pregnant people? We he was appalled. He was appalled she mentioned pregnant people. Let's keep watching.
Mm-hmm.
Mothers? Women?
If you'd like to call them mothers, not all of them are mothers, but if you'd like to call them that.
What are they if they're not mothers?
They're pregnant people.
What are they if they're not mothers? They're pregnant people. Okay, so she's coming with an idea that anybody can be pregnant, whether you are a woman through and through, you're a man now transitioning to be a woman, whatever the case is, there's this idea that people can get pregnant and it's not just limited to women.
What people other than mothers are pregnant?
Does it bother you to use inclusive language? It only takes a couple extra syllables to use inclusive language.
To include who?
It seems to include people who don't identify as women but can become pregnant.
There's this idea that being inclusive is a very, very accepting thing. Using inclusive language, everyone just being accepted as a human being and all of these other kinds of things. And don't get me wrong, I do believe that we are all humans. We all carry value and we all have a purpose for being here on this earth. But to the extent of which we're now kind of flipping the design, we're trying to play God ourselves in some kind of way, is where I get lost in a lot of this. There's just this idea that, you don't know where people are, you don't know where their journeys are, and we should just be respectful and accepting of all of it. What he says here, though, I think is really where my first point is going to come through. He's going to mention this question to her, and her response is actually going to spark the first thought of this entire video. So take a look.
So, like a person who's born a woman and then identifies as a man and is pregnant.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that in order to be a moral person, I need to accept the idea that someone who is born a man and looks like a man, can really become a woman. That's a prerequisite of my being a moral person.
Okay, basically what he's suggesting is, am I no longer a moral person because I am unwilling to accept someone who is claiming to be identified as a gender they truly aren't? Is it immoral for someone to not accept someone who is identifying as something that they were not biologically born as?
I mean, yes. To me, it is, because if you are trying to deny someone of their identity and deny what their life experience is, then that doesn't seem like a moral stance to me. I want to be accepting and I want to respect people's life experiences and respect the way that they want to identify and respect the way that they want to present themselves to the world.
Bronte.
So he's going to come back and share something and we'll wrap all that up in the end. But this is so interesting because her first response is, yes, to me, it is. Okay, so what she did in just that response alone is limit morality to an opinion, which no longer allows it to be an objectifying thing that us humans have access to and are thereby able to make judgments, discernments on what's right and wrong. Okay, so to her in this response, it seems as if she's claiming that morality is an opinion, considering she's like, well, to me, yeah, it does seem immoral. And her reasoning behind that is because people aren't respected if you don't do that. Their journeys and experiences aren't respected and they aren't accepted. And then thereby, because they aren't accepted, that might mean that they're hated and all these other kinds of things that come out of this response. We come to the stance of morality. My biggest issue with this is that in order for us to declare that morality exists, a moral lawgiver must exist behind the morality that we see. If morality is just given by way of me and you on a day-to-day basis, not only have we seen throughout the history of life how quick we are willing and wanting to change the rules, change definitions, change meanings to fit what we want and the reality we're pursuing, but it changes every day. So it's not even a consistent basis of morality to even derive such a conclusion, such as the matter we're discussing in this video regarding gender identity and inclusiveness and equality and all of these other kinds of things. If we can recognize that behind morality, there's a moral lawgiver, then this moral lawgiver has to be on the outside of us, greater than us, because this moral giver is the standard. He's simply the standard. He's the creator of all things. Okay, so only the individual who is able to set the standard is able to determine by the standard being set what's out of order, because he is the one that brings order with this moral stance, being the moral lawgiver. Morality exists. If we can agree that morality exists, then we have to agree and conclude that a moral lawgiver rather exists as well. But the moral lawgiver can't be you and me, because then that's how morality becomes an opinion and is no longer something that we use to discern between someone doing something right or wrong, whether something is good and evil, whether something is okay or not okay. The mission of morality is to declare right from wrong. The mission of morality has nothing to do with being accepted. So her argument behind why one would be considered immoral if they didn't accept someone's identity claim, saying that it seemingly isn't respectful and isn't accepting, that's not even the point of morality. Therefore, that argument is weakened. So we acknowledge morality exists, and we have to conclude that a moral lawgiver exists that is outside of us and greater than us, who sets the standard. And guess who this moral lawgiver is? Has to be God. So the way life works and the most we can get out of life in the best way is by doing life the way that the moral lawgiver set and intended, created and designed for this life to be, all the way down to our gender identity, our identification as human beings, and how we function and flourish through those things. And when we do things God's way, it's always the best way, because we are protected with his parameters by moving in his philosophy. That creates principles that need to be truthfully practiced to see transformation. And here's another thought behind this entire portion of the video, this idea of truth and acceptance. To just keep this short and sweet, it is so much better to live in truth than to be accepted. It's a reason why we all demand truth in any and all areas of our lives. None of us appreciate being lied to, let alone being drug along a part of a story in our lives that was never true, but we bought it because the person that told us this we found trustworthy. Acceptance is really what could get you hurt in the long run, and it is truth that exposes the lies, the deceit, the wrong directions that many of us could find taking, all because we just want to be accepted. Truth can't be replaced with acceptance. No matter how much I want it to be true, that doesn't make it true. And truth always carries empirical evidence, empirical adequacy, and logically makes sense. And the many things that we have to force to make sense by warping, changing, removing, reversing is something that simply doesn't stand the test of truth. Because truth is so valuable, I would much rather tell you the truth and be hated on this side of life than to be accepted and welcomed with opening arms, knowing that the information I'm telling you is not only a lie, but is a literal difference in many cases between life and death. So there's morality, there's truth. And this last part that I want to show you is actually the response to the last part that we watched, but a lot of this is really exposing the thinking process of people who take on this inclusive position. So take a listen to this and see if you catch it.
I would like to identify, I do identify actually, as the correct person on this issue of abortion. I identify as being correct and more correct than you on this issue. And I would just ask that you accept and affirm my identity. Do you?
well, you are not a medical professional, and abortion and pregnancy
No, I'm
is
just
a
talking about
medical
my identity.
concern.
He raises a question that seemingly logically would make sense to her whole entire positioning. She wants to be accepting, she wants to be inclusive, and everyone is welcomed and their stories are respected. And so he asks, okay, if I take the identity in the form of being correct on this issue, of more correct than you, do you accept and affirm my identity? And she does not. Now, she kind of runs around the entire thing. You're not a medical professional and all those other kinds of things. But she's unwilling to answer that question because it's extremely contradicting to the entire point she's been making. Because many people who claim to want to use inclusive language, to want to include everybody, actually contradict that entire viewpoint, because the very people that they are claiming to be inclusivist, if you will, it's kind of might be a made up term, I'll go with it. Inclusivists exclude the people that don't agree with their stances. So the very manner that they are willing to exclude people who disagree with them, and by their terms can be seen as hateful, a bigot, using hate speech, all these other kinds of things, is extremely contradicting to the entire point being made of being inclusive and wanting to be accepting of everyone's viewpoint. Because if that were the case, they would be accepting of those who disagree and who do not feel the same way that they do towards these big hot topic issues. Contradictions cannot reside in truth. So what do we get out of all of this? What's the entire point of this? If we do things God's way, the way God designed it, the way God intended it, we are really able to live our best lives. And I'm not saying that everything is going to be peachy, everything is going to be amazing, and there's no struggle, no problems, no issues, no setbacks. What I am saying, however, is that if we do things the way they were designed to be done by the ultimate creator himself, it's productive, yo. It's that it. And it's not that it's oppressive because some man or someone tells you that it's not okay for you to choose to be a man today and a woman tomorrow. It's not oppressive. It's not as if you're in some box and people hate you and can't stand you. No. The reason these things are set for our own protection and safety is because he wants what's best for us, just like a parent wants the best for their child. There are some parents that would love nothing more than to give their children candy, sweets, and sugar all day, every day, because it's what makes them happy. But because they understand that the child needs nutrients, healthy foods, to create a balanced, healthy diet, so the child could live, so the child doesn't fall prey to sicknesses and all these other kinds of things that can result in bad eating habits earlier in life. They're doing it for their own good, feeding them vegetables, feeding them fruits, feeding them well-balanced diets. It's not that the child is hated because the parent is looking out for the best interests of their child. The child is still loved immeasurably, and it's shown because the parent is willing to put restrictions on things that they know if there aren't any, it's going to spell danger for them in the long run. God is the same way. These parameters, the way he's designed this life to move, to be lived in, it's all for our safety and protection. Because we want to do things our way, it's us who's in the way, not God. Just end it like this. If we do things the way God intended for us to do them, we're far better off than doing things our way and thinking we're doing it the right way. So that's it. That's all my thoughts on this TikTok. I hope you guys are able to get something out of this, some fresh thoughts, perspectives. Maybe you were challenged a little bit, and I pray that you found this helpful in some way. Listen, if you're new, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so you'll know the next time we're posting. Hit the follow on the social medias. I'm also posting over here on Instagram, on TikTok. You can catch me there, more content, interact with your boy, all that good stuff down in the description below. And hopefully there's a pop-up somewhere around here. I appreciate you so much for tuning into this video. And as always, until our next conversation, be easy and be breezy. Peace.